Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley, and this is another video in the Derbyshire Churches series. This is one of the bigger Derbyshire churches, as you've noticed. This is the Church of All Saints, Youlgreave. It has Norman origins, and we'll see some of those as we go around. And it very much shows us how a big parish church, this is a big village, how a big parish church has developed over time from the Norman work all the way through to the 19th, even the 20th century. So let's have a look around and see what we can see. And so, as usual, we begin at the west end, says he, as usual. We're here just by the tower. There's a west tower, and this is one of those churches that extends, shall we say, quite some way west behind the aisles. So the aisles begin not right at the west end of the nave, but they begin about a third of the way down the nave, which is an interesting feature and not seen very often. The tower is, if you have, you should have your usual bell ropes in here, but there's just the one, so there must have been more. We have here a list of vicars going back only really to 1589, and here this is a piece of lead taken off the tower roof, and it records a repair done in 1701. It would have been removed, of course, afterwards. We have here a benefaction board from Mr. James Roberts of Alport. Alport is literally just outside the village, just literally joins on, left by his last will, bearing date January the 14th, 1681, 40 shillings be yearly and every year forever, distributed by the vicar of Youlgreave for the time being, and the owners and occupiers of his lands, to 10 of the most needy old men and 10 of the poorest widows in Youlgreave and Alport upon Christmas Day, in the manner following: a loaf of bread, value 1 shilling, and a cheese of the same value, to be distributed to each of the poor people in the church or chancel of the church of Youlgreave immediately after sermon or the service of that day. And so back into the nave. You'll notice again there's no wall plaster, but here the stonework is of such fine quality that it looks as if it never intended to have wall plaster. We have at the back a carved stone. Here, this is very ancient, removed from the church due to erosion, and it is supposed to be a coffin lid. There are two 17th century slabs that are quite similar to it in Scotland, so probably 17th century rather than anything else. And there we have the British Legion, that of course is the Veterans Organisation. And this area at the back is quite interesting. We've got some 19th century stained glass here. The font. Now, the previous video was at Elton. I commented about the font there, but actually the font coded at Elton is a copy, and this is the original, and it was originally in Elton. It was taken out after that church came crashing down. It's notable for its stoop, because we've seen this at Elton, and this either would have held oil for anointing or holy water. You've got an inverted dragon which symbolises the defeat of Satan. The north aisle, says he, orienting himself, the north aisle has 14th century arches, but the columns do appear earlier. Here we have the south aisle, which has a Norman arcade. We've got these memorials, 17th, 18th century up here. The south aisle doesn't contain a great deal beyond the organ, but the organ is very big. The children's corner as well, which is always a nice thing to have, if you can, in these places. We have Reginald Garrett, who was 45 years verger. The Garretts seem to have been hereditary vergers. And what have we got here? Hymns ancient and modern. Well, that's quite common. That font again. And we move then into the north aisle. See, all the furnishings have been replaced, 19th or early 20th century. Don't have any really old furnishings. This figure is a pilgrim. There he is with his staff setting out on pilgrimage. We've got these very nice, very, very nice indeed, actually, capitals. And here in the north aisle there are more memorials. There is here the All Saints Youlgreave, to the sacred memory of His Most Excellent Majesty Charles I, King and Martyr. So it's the Charles I, King and Martyr flag. Now we have here some old pictures of the interior of the church before the Victorians, which are always nice things to have. I mean, better if you can't have the Victorians. So here we have kind of the building before the Victorians. So here we have, you can see the pulpit with a suspended sounding board, box pews, chancel, and this is the chancel, more box pews, and semicircular, horseshoe-shaped communion rail. And then we are looking back, and we can see the font there, and more box pews. So it was basically just acres and acres of box pews here. Now, backing out, because I have to, because most of these pews, they're too closely spaced really for comfort. Here we have Roger Roux of Allport, 1613. There he is. It's typical Protestant, with he and his wife, and his wife's got a hat on, and they're kneeling in prayer. And below we have their daughters, all of them. 8 daughters, that's a lot of daughters. And no sons. So we've just 8 girls. And here we have, we can't see actually, just too much sun, but there are some fragments of old glass. And here this is the Lady Chapel, and we have the altarpiece. Now this wasn't originally an altarpiece, but it is a medieval, let me look at that, it is a medieval slab, and it's an alabaster memorial to Robert Gilbert of Youlgreave and his wife Joan, who died 11th November 1492. It shows a virgin and child flanked by a man and a woman and their 17 children. And it's very typical. You've got the husband and all the sons on one side, and the wife and all the daughters on the other. And in the middle you have the virgin and child. 15th century. Very, very rare. There's so few of these things to be found today. And here we have, who is this? Trying to work it out. It's evidently a lady in a quite impressive dress, but trying to see if I can see her name. No, I can't. But anyway, that's a memorial brass. Here we have Adoration of the Shepherds. And looking across, we have the organ, and again that lovely, lovely Norman arcade. So we come round into the chancel. All the choir stalls, of course, are Victorian, but in the middle we have the Little Knight. The Little Knight. Now, the Little Knight is a memorial to Thomas Cockayne of Harthill Hall, who died in 1488 in Pooley Park, Warwickshire, during a quarrel with Thomas Burdett of Bramcote on their way to Polesworth Church. It's not that he was very, very young, of course, but it's this size apparently because he died before his father. So here he is. I mean, you can see he's. But there's, of course, the myth that he was a midget. He wasn't, and I know midget is non-PC, but that he was a small person, but he wasn't. He is simply shown as a great deal less than life size. The family name is Cockayne, and you can see what his crest of his helm is. It's a cockerel, so he has a bit of a pun with his helm. There's his helm, and he actually open visor and full armour, and his feet upon a rather nice lion. He's been in the church, say, all the time since the 15th century. It's interesting to see these 15th century work. Now, the east window is very interesting because it's a William Morris piece. I believe it's William Morris. I'll just double check on the guide. Yes, it's Edward Burne-Jones and made in the works of William Morris. And it is your typical pre-Raphaelite window. You've got Christ as the King Almighty in the middle. Interesting enough, not bearded. He normally is. And then you've got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and this gold mosaic cross on the reredos. We have here a knight. I know it's getting a bit dark in here, but he is thought to be Sir John Rossington. He is cross-legged. This is, for many years, it was thought to indicate a crusader. It doesn't. It's just a way of making the monument look a bit more interesting. And we have here these lamps, or the candlesticks. Originally they were oil lamps. You can tell by those bulbous bases. And this is another Burne-Jones window. St. James, St. Peter, and St. John. So St. John gets two, because he's got one in the east window and one here. And this is in remembrance of Richard Clark. So here we are, we look all the way west, and it's an enormous building. Nice 15th century type roof, which is nice, and there's John Cockayne in the middle of the chancel. He hasn't always been there, but in the restoration they decided that was the authentic place for his memorial. So that is, I think, the inside. It's actually more interesting than at first it looks, because you've got these old memorials, and particularly, there we are, John Cockayne and Rossington, and then you've got the memorials in the aisle. So that's the inside. And we'll just turn around and have a look at those lamps as they were originally. And of course the lampstands are there for practical reasons. They're to light the chancel. And behind we have you can just see that cupboard, and that is based on genuine medieval examples. So all in all, it's quite an interesting inside. We'll go outside. Outside, we're in the middle of a busy village, so we may have a bit of noise out there, but there we are. And so here we are outside at Youlgreave. It's a bit difficult to film outside here because it is right in the middle of this rather big village, and there's busy roads around, so pardon some traffic noise. You can see here how impressive it is. It very much has this 15th century feel. This is the pinnacle of medieval English church architecture. Perpendicular. The Victorians didn't like it. They thought it was degenerate because they were silly. Seriously, because they had a wrong idea about how architecture developed. The idea that that the latest version had to be degenerate. No, it doesn't. It's a development. The decorated style is sort of putting twiddly bits on things. By this point, the 15th, 16th centuries, you're looking at, rather than just putting twiddly bits on things, you're looking at the architecture and the engineering itself being a statement. So we'll have a look around the outside and then conclude the video with a few words to camera. We start here on the south side. This is the side away from the road, and of course this is where the graveyard is, and that's one of the reasons why it's away from the road here. You've got this lovely soaring 15th century tower, and the crenellations, chancel. It's all genuine medieval stuff here, which will be great. And a bit of restoration, of course, but that's how it goes. And so we process, don't we? We move around the east end, and you've got a big window. Would have originally been bigger. The Victorians actually, I suspect, raised the chancel. And of course then you've got that reredos as well. and that's where that Burne-Jones window is really important. And Burne-Jones, of course, is one of the greats of the Pre-Raphaelites. We have here the north side of the church, nice gate there, and we pan around, and expensive fuel, but then we are up here in the peaks, and there we go. Just pause for a moment. And so here we are on the north side. You can see the north side's plainer as it normally is, even though it does face out into the village street. You can see there is a Sanctus Bell cot on the end of the nave. I apologise for the vehicles going past. Just turn them slightly. So that's the north side, and we move around here. You have your north aisle, and north aisle with that with the north door. Although the north door has, of course, been blocked off because, look, if you're not using the north door, then it's just an open space to let more drafts into your church, which you do not want. Village pub. They're very often found near the church for a variety of reasons. Oh, that's interesting. You can just see there the head of a Norman lancet window just there in the wall. Tells us about when they were rebuilding. Yes, of course, they were recycling some of the Norman work, because you do. And here we've got this blank wall, and this is where you've got that third of the nave that doesn't have anything in the way of aisles. There's the door. We're right up against the street here, so I can't really go out and have a look at that. It's a shame, but that's what you get. So there we have it, and you've got your porch, and again this area of wall, and that's a turret at the tower. So there we are, All Saints, Youlgreave. And so there we have it, All Saints, Youlgreave. I think you'll agree it's a most impressive building, a building of great antiquity, and a building that's very much its own thing. It's very much, this is a church that has happened over time, as all the great English parish churches pretty much have. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you, and until next time.